Saku sir.
वालेकुम अस्सलाम
স্যার আসসালাম স্যার
আসসালামু আলাইকুম স্যার।
अस्सलाम
স্যার শুরু করি স্যার আমাদের টাইম হয়ে গেছে স্যার
हाँ शुरू करो
Samir start
Yes, sir.
ready
We are on, sir.
okay Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome you all to our every weekly webinar of Oncology Club. In the era of this social distancing of COVID, we are trying to connect each other virtually in the platform where we can talk with each other and we can find out a solution that how can we do our regular practice of oncology on the basis of evidence-based medicine. So we have done 20 plus webinar on breast cancer and now we are running on lung cancer. On the lung cancer today, we will be talking on a series of TKI. So before that, I want to, as per our custom, request our president, Professor M.A. Hai sir, to formally start the session. So Professor M.A. Hai sir.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Heartiest welcome to all the participants and the faculty, particularly from India and all the participants. Inshallah, I'll be starting this immediately and we will be continuing these things and hope you are getting benefit out of it. Thank you all very much. Start it immediately without delay.
So, thank you, sir. So as you know, this platform is not a formal platform. Here we are not only trying to educate ourselves, we want to share with each other. This is a platform where we want to share knowledge, but in parallel, we are trying to develop faculties. We are trying to learn how to ask question. We are trying to learn how to answer question. We are trying to learn how to make a presentation. So this is a learning platform and we all are learning. And we are very happy that routinely we are having some of our overseas friends as a visiting faculty. Today we are expecting Dr. Ullas Batra from Rajiv Gandhi Cancer Institute, Delhi, and Dr. John Conybeare from UK. So they will be joining us shortly. Now I want to introduce you with our today's faculty. Today our topics is treatment option of ALK, ROS1 and BRAF positive non-small cell lung cancer. And our faculty is Dr. Sadia Sharmin. I take the pleasure to introduce Sadia. She is Associate Professor at Department of Oncology, Bangladesh, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib Medical University. But beyond that, I want to tell that this is not enough to tell about Sadia. I am a proud person to have the opportunity in my lifetime to in some classes where she attended as a student. So today I am proud of so many of my students and she is one of the most illuminating one who is now treated as one of the most bright oncologists in our country. And during her student life, I remember there were two friends, Sadia and Shimu. Shimu is now in Australia. They used to compete with each other who will answer first. And that was the fair competition among themselves. And I used to enjoy them. So today, after 10 years now, Sadia is in the driving wheel and she is doing wonderful job in the university. And that's why we requested Sadia to be the faculty and we are very happy that she accepted our invitation. And today she will be talking on oral TKI of ALK, ROS and BRAF mutated non-small cell lung cancer. So now may I request Dr. Sadia Sharmin, Associate Professor of BSMMU Oncology Department to give her presentation. Sadia.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum, sir, and assalamu alaikum, Kamal Bhai, for your very brief presentation. I am overwhelmed, and I want to thanks first of all Oncology Club to continue this program in this pandemic era. Today my topic is treatment options for ALK, ROS1 and BRAF positive advanced non-small cell lung cancer. Am I audible?
Yes,
Is it
you are.
okay? Yes, sir. Thank you. The lung cancer. What are the sub-classifications of lung cancer? I start my presentation with this classification.
Slide
The
share. Slide share.
slide is not sharing.
No, slide share.
Also not
You
visible.
cannot see.
Oh. Sorry, sir.
Samir, you have the slide. Otherwise, you can share also.
Is it okay?
No, তুমি স্লাইডটা ওপেন
minimize
করে
করে
মিনিমাইজ করে তারপরে আবার ইয়ে করো স্লাইড শেয়ার স্টপ করো এটা ওপেন করো
আচ্ছা।
এটা করে তোমার স্লাইড কম্পিউটার এটা মিনিমাইজ করো করে তারপর আবার স্লাইড শেয়ার দাও
That would work as well. Madam, just maximize করলে হতো এটা।
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা। আসলে জুমটা ইয়ে হয়ে গেছে।
স্লাইড শেয়ার দিয়ে দাও
স্যার এখানে তো দেখাচ্ছে স্ক্রিন শেয়ারিং।
ঠিক আছে সাদিয়া শুধু স্লাইড শেয়ার যেটা স্লাইড ভিউ
স্লাইড শো তো যাও স্লাইড শো নিচে
ও আচ্ছা আচ্ছা আচ্ছা।
ওকে ফাইন
হ্যাঁ।
ওকে গুড
থ্যাঙ্কস। সরি। ওপেন হচ্ছে না। I start again. Sorry for the disruption. I start with this session with the classification of lung cancer. The broad heading, we can divide the lung cancer in a small and non-small cell lung cancer. And the histologic spectrum of lung cancer has clearly changed over the past several decades. And small cell lung cancer has decreased from about 25 to less than 15% of lung cancers. Adenocarcinoma is now the most dominant histologic type. Immunohistochemistry and genetic characterization can facilitate the distinction between subtypes. It is recognized that vast majority of adenocarcinomas are mixed subtypes.
সাদিয়া তুমি তোমার অপশনটা চেঞ্জ করো কারণ এটা হচ্ছে তুমি তোমার স্ক্রিনটা আমাদের সঙ্গে দেখাচ্ছ উপরে তোমার একটা অপশন আছে ডিসপ্লে সেটিং এ সেখানে যেতে হবে তোমাকে আমরা তোমার ওই যে অপোজিট পরের স্লাইডটাও দেখতে পাচ্ছি
ও আচ্ছা আচ্ছা
বুঝছো তুমি যেটা দেখতে পাচ্ছ সেটা আমরা দেখতে পারার কথা না
হ্যাঁ
বাট আমরা ওইটাই দেখতে পাচ্ছি তুমি ডিসপ্লে সেটিং এ যাও
একটু এক মিনিট ও ডিসপ্লে সেটিং
ওটাতে সামির একটু হেল্প করো ওকে হ্যাঁ
ম্যাডাম একবার এই সব কিছু ক্লোজ করে দেন প্লিজ সব স্লাইড শো একদম অফ করে দেন প্লিজ শো অফ করে দেন জি ইটস টোটালি ফাইন রাইট নাও আপনি জাস্ট এখানে স্লাইড শো দেন প্লিজ
আচ্ছা তাহলে কি আমি
পারফেক্টলি ফাইন জি জি পারফেক্টলি
নাও the
okay no it's fine fantastic
okay. Okay. Now the driver mutations. What is the importance of driver mutations? Because in the common or in the present era, we can subtypes the non-small cell lung cancer by the testings of molecular testings or driver mutations testings, and our treatment depends on it. The biomarkers are very important in the common practice area, and the biomarker driven therapy is very important part of the management of non-small cell lung cancer, along with the others treatment like chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and surgery. Now, what are the targeted therapy for adenocarcinoma? It is depends on the receptor status of the adenocarcinoma. The lots of receptors and new receptors are coming, and my today's topics is on ALK, ROS, and BRAF. So I will talk on the TKIs or tyrosine kinase inhibitors of ALK positive tumor, ROS positive tumor, and BRAF mutated non-small cell lung cancer. I already told that chemotherapy is an important part for the management of advanced non-small cell lung cancer, but currently we are working with targeted therapy and also the checkpoint inhibitors. The targeted therapies depends on the receptor status of the tumor. Targeted therapies are a type of treatment that targets specific molecules that are essential for cancer cells to grow and divide uncontrollably. The management of non-small cell lung cancer has changed significantly with the discovery of specific drug targets. They differ from standard chemotherapy in that they block the cancer cells growth and division rather than as chemotherapy does, kill the cancer cells directly. Targeted therapies may also be called biomarker-driven therapy, precision medicine, molecular targeted drugs, or therapies. Now, I want to go to my today's topic, that is the ALK and ROS1 gene, the role of ALK and ROS1 gene presents in the advanced non-small cell lung cancer. Two particular genetic defects has been shown, that is the advances in genetics have revealed a number of genetic changes or defects that are believed to cause some cancers to grow. Two of these defects results in genes called ALK and ROS fusion gene. Everyone has the ALK and ROS1 gene in their cells, but when a part of the ALK or the ROS1 gene breaks off and reattach the wrong way, it becomes a fusion gene. This may cause the cell to multiply out of control, resulting in cancer growth. In ESMO guidelines or new ESMO guidelines, all patients with advanced possible, probable, or definite adenocarcinoma should be tested for oncogenic drivers. In the oncogenic driving test, we can test the EGFR, we can test the ALK, ROS1 rearrangement. In ALK1 rearrangement, the testing of anaplastic lymphoma kinase rearrangement should be systematically carried out in advanced non-squamous cell lung cancer. Immunohistochemistry is an alternative to FISH test for ALK testing, provided the method is validated against FISH or some other orthogonal test approach. And for testing for ROS1 rearrangement should be systematically carried out in advanced non-small cell lung cancer. FISH is the standard approach for ROS1 testing. Immunohistochemistry can be used as a screening approach, but is not recommended as the primary treatment determining test. 3 to 5% people with non-small cell lung cancer test positive for ALK fusion gene, and 1 to 2% people with non-small cell lung cancer test positive for the ROS1 fusion gene. The anaplastic lymphoma kinase or ALK rearrangement is a fusion between two genes. I already told about it, and most commonly echindrome microtubule associated protein like 4. The fusion of these two genes produce an abnormal ALK protein. This slide showing how ALK inhibitor acts when we got the ALK gene rearrangement in the non-small cell lung cancer patients, and the targeted agents acts to the mutated site. Now, what are the approved ALK inhibitors? According to, I arrange it according to alphabetically approach, like the first alectinib, brigatinib, ceritinib, prazotinib, and lorlatinib. This table shows the first, second, and third generation TKIs for treatment of ALK or ROS1 positive non-small cell lung cancer. Here, the red marker showing that the alectinib, and it is now the first line treatment approach. If we go to the previous decades or the previous years, for the ALK positive non-small cell lung cancer, the crizotinib was the first options, and there are very few trials which is working to show the effectivity of crizotinib in ALK positive non-small cell lung cancer. In this study, the 77% of patients with ALK positive non-small cell lung cancer remain on crizotinib treatment. Tumor response is about 53%. Patients with ALK positive non-small cell lung cancer do not appear to respond to EGFR tyrosine kinase inhibitors. It is an important message to our student. That is, that if the ALK is positive and EGFR is negative, or we cannot do the status of the receptors, we cannot give the TKI blindly to these patients. The first line treatment of ALK positive non-small cell lung cancer is crizotinib, ceritinib, and alectinib. It is the NCCN guidelines. There are, these slides show the three studies which has been going on and already been done regarding crizotinib for ALK positive non-small cell lung cancer. These three studies doing or showing the results of head-to-head trial of crizotinib versus chemotherapy. This is the profile 1007, profile 1014, and profile 1029. Profile 1014, in the profile 1014, there are two head-to-head trials like crizotinib versus the conventional chemotherapy, which we usually use in non-small cell lung cancer, that is the pemetrexed and platinum, followed by maintenance. The patterns of progression and mechanism of resistance to crizotinib, when we use the TKIs for ALK rearrangement non-small cell lung cancer, sometimes it develops resistance for the crizotinib, then we should switch over to the second line TKI. Now, what are the second generations of ALK inhibitors? These are the ceritinib, alectinib, and brigatinib, I already told. And the studies are going on like ASCENT 1, 2, 3, 5. This slide showing the response of ceritinib to alectinib in previously treated ALK positive non-small cell lung cancer. The ceritinib and alectinib approved for patients with ALK positive metastatic non-small cell lung cancer with disease progression on or who are intolerant to crizotinib. Now the issues are CNS penetration. CNS disease in ALK rearrangement non-small cell lung cancer is very common. In metastatic CNS disease is present in approximately 20 to 30% of patients with ALK positive non-small cell lung cancer at the time of diagnosis, but the incidence increases up to 50% over the course of the disease. Potential for achieving adequate CNS TKI penetration increases with the use of higher generation TKI. Historically, locoregional treatments were considered the standard of care. The combination of radiotherapy plus crizotinib was shown to prolong survival in the pre-second generation TKI era. I want to mention here that is the pre-second generation TKI era. Alectinib cross blood-brain barrier and significantly prolonged CNS progression-free survival. The high intracranial activity of alectinib and other second generation of ALK TKI may allow delay in the use of radiotherapy in patients with asymptomatic CNS disease. Patients with large volume or symptomatic CNS involvement should receive locoregional treatment in addition to the appropriate ALK tyrosine kinase inhibitor. So the alectinib is now in the first line treatment in NCCN guideline, whereas the crizotinib was previously used as first line treatment for ALK positive non-small cell lung cancer. These references shows the comparison of ceritinib, alectinib, and brigatinib. Their different trials are going on. And for the CNS activity of second generation ACT inhibitors in crizotinib resistant patients showing good result with the alectinib. And this is the slide which showing the head-to-head trial between the TKIs. It is the ZLX, LX, and ALTA1L. Efficacies of ALK TKIs in TKI-naive ALK positive non-small cell lung cancer. There are several trials are going on. The Profile 1014, SN4, GLX, LX, and ALTA1L studies are going on to showing what TKI should be effective for the ALK positive non-small cell lung cancer. In SN4, the ceritinib versus platinum and pemetrexed based chemotherapy was done, and ceritinib showed superiority and demonstrates important intracranial and extracranial activity. And SN8, dose adjustment was proposed with food interaction mainly in order to reduce GI toxicity. It is the summary of SN8. And ALTA, that is ALTA1L trial, showing the brigatinib showed superiority to crizotinib. It is the head-to-head trial between brigatinib and crizotinib. Now the alectinib is first-line ALK-TKI due to progression-free survival advantage, brain metastasis, cumulative incidence reduction, and favorable toxicity profile. So alectinib is now in the first line. These slides also show the intracranial efficacy. Now I want to show the NCCN guideline 2020 for non-small cell lung cancer, ALK rearrangement positive. If ALK rearrangement is positive, the first line is preferred alectinib. And if ALK rearrangement discovered during first line systemic therapy, that is already systemic therapy is going on or planned or started, then maintenance therapy can be given with the TKI. Progression on alectinib or brigatinib or ceritinib, if asymptomatic, then we can consider the definitive local therapy. And if symptomatic brain, then consider definitive local therapy, or systemic isolated lesion, then consider definitive local therapy, that SABR, or multiple lesion, then we can go for third generation TKIs like lorlatinib. Progression on crizotinib may be asymptomatic. It is divided on two arms, that is asymptomatic and symptomatic, and we can treat the patients accordingly. How I treat the failure of ALK inhibitor? The chemotherapy is still the backbone of non-small cell lung cancer, and in ALK positive patients progressing after ALK TKIs, platinum-based chemotherapy is still a valid option for these patients, and chemoimmunotherapy is on trial. There are several trials are going on to combine the chemotherapy and immunotherapy and TKIs and immunotherapy, but the toxicity profile is not favorable. In some trials, they show that the hepatotoxicity is more, and in some trial they shown the manageable toxicity, but the results are not achieved. Now, if I summarize the ALK positive non-small cell lung cancer, the SN3 study made its objective, and the final analysis results are consistent with the previous analysis. The ceritinib led to high rate of durable response and prolonged progression-free survival. Median overall survival was prolonged and clinically relevant in ALK-naive patients with ALK positive non-small cell lung cancer. The safety profile is consistent, and quality of life was generally maintained during ceritinib treatment. Now the ROS1 mutation, it is another genetic mutation. The ROS1 rearrangement, it is located in the chromosome 6, and there is ROS1 rearrangement is a fusion between two genes, that is the ROS1 gene and another gene. As with ALK, the fusion of the two genes produce an abnormal protein that cause cancer cells to grow and spread. About 2% of patients with lung adenocarcinoma in United States have tumors with a ROS fusion. Approved ROS1 inhibitors are, there are currently two targeted therapies, that is the crizotinib, a TKI that is also used for patient with ALK positive tumor, and entrectinib, a TKI that is used for patient with a MTRK1 mutation. These NCCN guideline 2020 shows the treatment approach for ROS1 rearrangement positive tumors with non-small cell lung cancer. The ROS1 rearrangement discovered prior to first-line systemic therapy, then preferred is crizotinib or entrectinib. And if ROS1 rearrangement discovered during first-line systemic therapy, then complete the planned systemic therapy, including maintenance, or interrupt followed by crizotinib or entrectinib. It depends on the patient features or the ability of the patients or other factors. Several studies are going on with the ROS1 mutation, but they are not so much because ROS1 because the considerable patients or the ROS1 positive non-small cell lung cancer is not so much. I have told that only 2% patients showing the ROS1 mutation. In the study design, the 50 people in the study of ROS1 positive non-small cell lung cancer that had spread to other parts of their body were treated to crizotinib capsule, and the results were not compared to results with another medication. Most of the people in the study had received previous systemic treatment for their non-small cell lung cancer that had spread to other parts of the body. And there is another trial of Profile 1001. It shared the ROS1 rearrangement lung cancer has overall response rate of 72%, disease control rate is 90%, and progression-free survival is 19.2 months, much as had been seen with ALK rearrangement tumors. On the basis of this result, crizotinib was granted full approval for treatment of advanced ROS1 rearrangement lung cancer. And lorlatinib, a highly potent CNH penetrating and selective ALK and ROS1 TKI, was shown it's a multi-center phase 1 trial to be active in crizotinib resistant disease. If crizotinib is resistant, then for ROS1 mutation, we can choose lorlatinib. These I have already shown that the evidence of crizotinib in ROS1 positive advanced non-small cell lung cancer comes from a small single arm study, and it is the Profile 1001 and 1007 and 1014. The efficacy of crizotinib in ROS1 positive non-small cell lung cancer in the table showing the results of different studies. And I have told that in resistant disease, the lorlatinib is another option. Now the BRAF mutation. It is the more common in current and former smoker female and primary in adenocarcinoma. Frequency is 2 to 4%. Among them, the 50% is BRAF V600E mutation, and the testing method is preferred the PCR. Mutation in the BRAF gene occur in about 1 to 3% of lung adenocarcinoma patients. Resistance invariably develop with the development of bypass pathways such as redirected of cell signaling by MEK1/2 kinase. Now the treatment options in NCCN and ISMO guidelines now endorse testing for BRAF mutations in non-small cell lung cancer, in particular BRAF V600E. These guidelines recommend the use of BRAF and MEK inhibitors in first or subsequent lines of therapy for those that harbor a V600E mutation. And alternatively, the NCCN guidelines recommend that BRAF and other molecular testing. There are currently one FDA-approved targeted treatment for patients with metastatic non-small cell lung cancer with a BRAF V600 mutation as detected by an FDA-approved test. These are the dabrafenib and trametinib. There are a trial already going on, that is a basket trial with vemurafenib showed an overall response rate of 42% for patients with BRAF V600 mutated non-small cell lung cancer, and progression-free survival is 7.3 months. And phase 2 trial showed dabrafenib after one or more prior chemotherapy regimen for metastatic disease, and it shows the overall response rate was evident in 33% of the pretreated patients. This is also an ongoing this phase 2 study or ongoing clinical trial, that is the NCT. Sorry for the interruption. That is the ongoing clinical trial, that is the NCT 02304809. This study showing that the metastatic or unresectable locally advanced malignancy harboring BRAF genomic alteration, the biological target of vemurafenib, and who are no more amenable to curative treatment. The phase 2 results suggest that routine biomarker screening of non-small cell lung cancer should include BRAF V600 mutation, and vemurafenib monotherapy is effective for treating patient with that type of mutated lung cancer patient. This NCCN guideline shows the BRAF V600E mutation discovered is preferred. I already told the dabrafenib and tramatinib. And if BRAF V600E mutated discovered during first-line systemic therapy, then I already stated previously for the other rearrangement, that is the completely planned systemic therapy, then we can go for the TKIs. This I already told. This slide showing the head-to-head trial of dabrafenib and plus tramatinib with the second line therapy in the patient who has received the systemic therapy before. How the BRAF kinase inhibitor acts. Now I want to conclude this session with a dramatic evolution in lung cancer treatment has occurred over the last decade with the discovery of multiple specific druggable targets. The most notable include epidermal growth factor receptor, anaplastic lymphoma kinase, translocation, and ROS1 rearrangement. These developments have allowed for a more personalized approach to lung cancer treatment in a select patient cohort, and drugs that are active at these sites have translated into a significant improvement in patient survival and quality of life compared to conventional cytotoxic therapies. With the success of BRAF targeting drugs observed in other cancer types, attention has now turned to the subgroup of lung cancer patients with BRAF mutations. Promising data is starting to emerge that support the use of these drugs in this setting. Thank you. Thank you for your patience hearing.
Thank you, Sadia. It was a nice, elaborate presentation, and you have covered a huge area from ALK, ROS1 to BRAF. Yes, we know that the percentage is not great, but even 1% is a big number, because if you can give a hope to a patient, that is a big thing. So now the floor is open for discussion. As I mentioned that we are learning here, everybody is learning from each other. So we should appreciate the question, because we need to learn how to ask question, and also we need to learn how to answer question. So Sadia is in the hot seat. Everybody is welcome to ask her question.
Good afternoon. I am
Yes.
Dr. Asma Sitika. Can I allow to
Yes,
ask a
you are.
question?
Madam, you are more than allowed. Please ask a
Uh-huh.
question.
Thank you, Dr.
Assalamu
Sadia.
alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Thank you, Sadia, for your excellent presentation. You have mentioned everything almost. If TKI against ALK or ROS is resistant, can we move to immunotherapy?
If the ALK and ROS, the first line
TKI, if TKI against ALK and ROS have developed resistance, that these drugs are not working, can we move to immunotherapy if PD-L1 is positive?
if PD-L1 is positive, then we can move. Unless otherwise the testing, we cannot move or we cannot suggest immune therapy so far I know. And there are some trials going on with the immune therapy along with the TKIs, but the toxicity is more. They showed that the hepatotoxicity is more. In resistant cases, they are trying to give these both, like immune therapy with chemotherapy or immune therapy with TKIs, but toxicity is not manageable or toxicity is not comparable. So along with the TKI, we cannot suggest the immune therapy so far I know, but if PD-L1 is positive, then we can go for immune therapy. But I want Kamal Bhai will comment on this also.
Asma, I think wanted to raise one issue that after progression in EGFR mutated who is resistant, they don't do great with immunotherapy. So I think if I'm not wrong, you wanted to brought that issue that whether there is any issue in ALK or ALK.
Yes.
So in EGFR mutated patient, when it is resistant to EGFR, even if
Yes.
it is positive, they don't do a very good response to immunotherapy. So that is the observation of EGFR mutant. But I have no idea about ALK. Ullas will be joining us any moment. We can keep this to take his comment on this, but it's a great question because, you know, we can use it. But the question is how it is going to respond. In EGFR mutated, we know once it is, we exhaust all the EGFR mutated
Becomes,
TKI,
yes, sir.
then it is not a great response even with immunotherapy. That is, bad is for everything bad. Then we become hopeless. It is not
I-
total hopeless. That is.
I want to add something that is a Checkmate 370. There is a trial.
Yes.
Checkmate 370. It is on between crizotinib plus nivolumab. But hepatotoxicity was significant, so they discontinued the enrollment in Checkmate 370. And there is another similar result observed in combination with ceritinib and nivolumab. Thus, here also the toxicity is more and the response is not so good. In case of ALK failure of ALK TKI, after that, they tried the immune therapy and manageable toxicity profile reported only for avelumab and lorlatinib and atezolizumab and alectinib. But the result is not, it is, I think it is on phase 2 trial. The result is not yet published. So it is very difficult to comment regarding immune therapy in case of ALK resistant cases. But the previous 2 trial, they stop enrollment because of toxicity of the patient. So, and the chemotherapy here, I also want to add that chemotherapy is always gold standard. In case of all these are failed, then we can go for chemotherapy again to treat the patient. If performance status is good, that is 0-1. If patient's performance status is good, then we can again try the chemotherapy.
Thank
I
you.
found.
Yeah, what you mentioned or what Dr. Asma was asking, not a combination.
Immune,
Ullas,
yes.
welcome. We have a ready question for you. So we had a
How do you every time know that I have joined? I mean, I am hardly.
I have a special radar. I'm watching you. Okay.
I hope that doesn't work when the Zoom is not on, and I hope my wife has not contacted you.
Okay, Ullas, welcome. So today
you,
we
sir.
had a wonderful presentation from our brilliant presenter, Dr. Sadia Sharmin, who is associate professor in our university hospital.
Hello,
She
sir.
had it's a good coverage on ALK, ROS, and BRAF. So one question came as that, you know, in EGFR mutated, we know when it is resistant. After that, even we try with immunotherapy, it doesn't do great because resistant to EGFR mutated patients, even it is PD-L1 positive, we use with immunotherapy, whatever the combination is, we don't get a great outcome. So
Yes,
what
sir.
about ALK? If we get a situation, it is a ALK resistant, and then at one stage we exhaust and we try with immunotherapy, say PD-L1 is positive. So is there anything observation there in ALK resistant?
Sir, I think brilliant question, which has been, we have also thought about it. The difference between EGFR and ALK is that after EGFR, only one drug is approved, that is osimertinib. Rest, everybody will take chemotherapy or impassion 150 kind of a regime, empower 150 kind of a regime. Problem with ALK is that if crizotinib doesn't work, you will have ceritinib. Ceritinib doesn't work, you have brigatinib. Brigatinib doesn't work, you have lorlatinib. If all them don't work, do a biopsy again and then give crizotinib again and again give chemotherapy. But the bottom line again is that chemo plus immunotherapy, even if your PD-L1 is high, generally does not work that great in biomarker rearranged lung cancer.
Okay.
So you
it
should
is
always
applicable
search for a
all.
target.
So it is applicable for all biomarker.
Yes, sir. Generally, yes. Generally, yes.
So Dr. Asma, I think you got the answer that it is not only for EGFR. So we can take a broad answer that whenever we have a biomarker resistance situation, so at one stage, if you're going to plan with the immunotherapy, probably we are not going to expect a great result. So I see a question from Riyadh.
Thank you, sir. And madam, thank you for nice presentation. My
Thank you,
question. Yes, ma'am.
Riyadh, continue.
May I continue, ma'am?
Yes, please.
Thank you. If a patient needs some kind of local treatment, should we start TKI with radiation or local therapy concurrently, or start after the completion of local treatment?
Riyad, what type of local treatment you want to know? That is the radiotherapy in the chest?
Maybe, yeah, ma'am, maybe radiotherapy.
Radiotherapy. I have already said or already presented that the CNS, if we come to the CNS metastasis or CNS disease, it is very much common with L positive non-small cell lung cancer, and 20 to 30% patient sometimes present with the metastatic disease. And historically, local regional treatment were considered, and the combination of radiotherapy and crizotinib was shown to prolong survival in the pre-second generation TKI. That is, it is already is used. That is, the radiotherapy and crizotinib was used concurrently for brain metastatic patients, and it gives some prolonged survival before pre-second generation TKI. And when the second generation TKI come, that is the alectinib, which cross the blood-brain barrier, and for those for asymptomatic patient, we can go for, with brain metastasis also, we can go for the second generation TKI like alectinib. And if patient developing symptoms, then we can go for local treatment like radiotherapy in stereotactic or conventional way. So that in brain metastatic patient, there are studies or there are examples of giving crizotinib along with the radiotherapy. And for chest or local regional means, if you want to know something about the chest radiation or radiotherapy to the lung.
Yes, ma'am. Maybe a patient with metastatic non-small cell lung cancer, but we need to give radiotherapy to chest for some local relief or symptomatic relief. Then should we start crizotinib along with radiotherapy?
So far I know you can give concurrently. So
thank you, ma'am.
Ullas.
Sir, first of all, apologies, my video is playing up. So a very good question, which we were discussing today morning in another platform. So if you have to give radiotherapy to the lung along with any of the TKIs, I would say don't give, because there is a higher chance of radiation pneumonitis occurring with them, especially with crizotinib and osimertinib and gefitinib. During, let's say the other question is, are you going to give, while you give whole brain RT? So there was some study in which these drugs have potentiated the side effects of RT. So typically we don't give. I would rather wait for the RT to get over and wait for 4-5 days and then go ahead and give TKIs after that.
Okay, let me add with Ullas that whatever the study going on, combining radiation is not with conventional radiotherapy, it is with stereotactic radiotherapy. Still, it is not a recommendation. Trials are going on. They are trying to bring SABR and say osimertinib or this alectinib to try. But conventional radiotherapy, even in brain, no. Lung, of course, no. As Ullas mentioned, because the fibrosis things will aggravate. So the answer is no. If it is stereotactic radiotherapy for curative purpose, it is investigational. For brain, finish the SRS or then you go for SRT, then you go. But the message is, if you are treating a brain mets patient with stereotactic radiotherapy, don't stop the ALK, the TKI, whatever the patient was getting, like crizotinib or alectinib, you should continue, even you have irradiated the patient by stereotactic radiotherapy. So we should not be happy that I have controlled it. No, because we know this is a systemic disease. This was a presentation of a part of the systemic disease. So after doing the local treatment in the brain, we should not stop the systemic treatment. So the continuation of the TKI should be there. Any more question? So I have one question to Ullas.
So,
one patient is doing great with alectinib, ALK positive. What is the clean-cut criteria to declare that patient is resistant to alectinib? How can what is the parameter that you practice? It is a very tricky thing in metastatic. Patient is feeling good, but sometimes radiology progression. Sometimes radiology is static, patient is not feeling good. How you really quantify the progression?
So a very complicated question. A very simple answer is, you treat a patient, you don't treat a report. If the patient is feeling better you need to continue on that. Probably, so there are two scenarios which you will come. Let's say you have given alectinib, patient is not doing well. I mean, radiologically, it says that the things are progressing. Now, you also need to ask, what is the progression? Just don't read the last line. I think Jahangir will agree, and that is what I always tell my residents, that, please don't read the last line. Maybe there is just one small news site which has come, one small note which has come. And in our setup, again, tuberculosis is very common. And as I was telling last time, we have not burnt our fingers, we have burnt our hands, foot, mouth, everything by treating tuberculosis, which was thought as progression. So one, look at the radiological report. What amount of progression is there? Is it an oligo progression? Is it a systemic progression? Look at the patient. If there is a radiological report which says there is a progression, but the patient is clinically feeling better, I would then continue the patient on alectinib. Also to say whether I have got lorlatinib with me or not, what are the other options I have available. The only thing which I will do is I will do the next scan earlier. I'll call the patient more frequently and do the next scan slightly earlier. If two subsequent images still show it is increasing, I will like to biopsy it and then go ahead with that.
Thanks, Ullas. I mean, what Ullas shared with us, I mean, first of all, these are great drugs, but we don't have many options. So we should be very cautious and judicious about using our resources. This is number one. And I love his word that we don't treat the reports, we treat the patient. That is the great part, because say in my practice, I ask the patient, how are you? If he or she says, I'm fine, to me, that is the best report. Even there is appearance of new effusion, if there is appearance of new lesion, because we are not treating that, because it's a metastatic disease, we cannot cure him or her. We want to give them a good quality. As long as they are fine, let them be fine, rather than intervening or pushing it. And believe me, if we are pushing much, we don't have so many things on our hand. Maybe it is expensive, maybe it is not available, maybe it is toxic, maybe it is, and we don't know that the second line is going to do the great like the first line. So thanks, Ullas, for the wonderful comment that you made. And
so, Dr. Kamal,
yes,
Kamal bhai,
yes,
if
please.
if there is subjective response, the patient is feeling good. At that time, should we go for frequent imaging test routinely for this patient, as we will not treat the image, just the patient?
Ullas, respond.
So, yes, sir. So I totally agree. I said I will treat the patient, I will continue the medicine, but I will do my next scan earlier. I will like to call the patient earlier. Now it again depends on, madam, what kind of progression you have. Let's say you have only 1 or 2 lymph nodes which have increased in the mediastinum. Now this is not going to be life-threatening for him. But if you have got 2 new spots in the liver or a huge spot in the liver, then the things might be a bit, might just be a bit different. So a progression has to be treated differently. If it's a, we have also seen, in fact, yesterday I had a patient not of lung cancer, but of a BRCA mutant ERPR positive CA breast. For last 2 images, her bones in the PET scan were showing slight increase. Every time we will tell, let's change or something. Patient says, "No, I'm getting benefit from it. Let me not do." Yesterday, the scan showed stable disease. Ma'am, we have to take everything with a pinch of salt. A PET scan report, and again, if the patient, if it's really a progressive disease, then why the patient is not showing symptoms of that? So I will like to continue, but I will have my antennas up that something may be amiss. I will counsel the patient accordingly that you may have to change the treatment sooner than later, but I will not, again, it also depends on, madam, what is the PFS? Let's say somebody on crizotinib is showing signs of progression at 14-15 months. I know crizotinib doesn't act for more than 10 months. Maybe my suspicion level will be much more higher. But somebody on alectinib at 14-15 months, if it is showing and the patient is doing fine, I would say, okay, fine, I have data to back up. 36 months is the normal usually PFS. So again, a lot of things. What is the height of progression? How the patient is doing? What is the second line therapy that you have? Can the patient come to you early or not? Will the patient sue you or not? Have you documented it properly or not? So a lot of things go into that.
So thanks. I think we can continue this discussion quite long. So I have 2 more questions, and this is the last 2 questions I'm going to very quickly, Dr. Asma Siddique and Oronangshu. First, Dr. Asma, can you ask your question? Then Urunangshu. Then we will finish the questions and move to our last part, the debate. Asma.
If ROS mutation is present along with brain mets, which one is preferred? Crizotinib or entrectinib?
No doubt entrectinib. See, crizotinib is not going to cross a blood-brain barrier. And the new data of NTRK fusion inhibitors, in fact, NTRK inhibitors are only approved in this indication in ROS as compassionate usage. If somebody has ROS positive lung cancer with brain mets, you can apply for entrectinib. So entrectinib, no doubt about it.
Thank you.
So there is a question from Urunangshu. It's a long question. Urunangshu, would you please summarize and ask the question? Urunangshu.
I think I have read the question, sir.
Yes.
So they are asking about the association between EGFR, ALK, ROS, and PDL1. In fact, we have done a study in which we have compared 220 people of EGFR, and then we saw the PDL1 expression. So our guessing was that whether high PDL1 expression or a low PDL1 expression will have bearing on the response of TKIs. It does not have. There was a data which was presented on the subset analysis of the FLORA trial in JTO in September. That also said there is no association of PDL1 with EGFR. So EGFR, ALK, ROS, whatever PDL1 is there, there is no point in giving immunotherapy in the first line. Even in the second line, the Empower 150 trial, PDL1 expression did not really make a difference. So PDL1 does not have anything to do with EGFR, ALK, ROS.
So thank you, Ullas. I think we can, if some of us have some question, we can share it in the chat box. Ullas may try to respond because we are not allowing to leave unless we finish. In the meantime, we have our another component is the debate. So this is a thing that we started, and very soon we are going to start a new component very soon. But today I'm going to ask that, are we courageous enough to take the challenge? That we all are making presentation, doing a great thing. So we are thinking to make a session that we will evaluate our own presentation. Are we ready for that? In that case, please, we will send a survey. If you say yes, we will make a session. Randomly we'll pick up some of one presentation, and we will all listen to that, and we all will do the positive and negative criticism. By this way, we will learn how to improve ourselves. So that is another funny way of learning we are thinking, and we will send a survey form to everybody for their response. So now we are moving to our debate session. Today our debate is TKI can be used without mutation status in non-small cell lung cancer. It sounds interesting, but sometimes it is a real life challenge. So that's why we have arranged the debate. We have two debaters, Dr. Tania Sultana, who is the medical officer of radiation oncology NICRH, and Dr. Sarwat Sultana is the registered radiation oncology NICRH. So I want to ask Dr. Tania Sultana to start her presentation. Tania is going to talk in favor.
Thank you, sir. Sir, Dr. Sarwat will talk in favor.
So Sarwat, you will be the first batsman, opening batsman. You will be talking in favor. Dr. Sarwat Sultana, she is the registered, and she is a qualified oncologist, by the way. So debate is for fun. Whatever they are telling, maybe they are not meaning it. We want to bring out the data in favor and against, then we know how to conclude.
Thank you, sir. Saying sulfates do not cause acid rain is the same.
We don't see the skin.
It is not visible, madam.
Share screen.
So may I?
It's there. Okay, go to the slideshow.
Is it okay?
First slide, go to the first slide. You are in the third slide. Okay. Okay, now we start.
saying sulfate do not cause acid rain is the same as that saying smoking doesn't cause lung cancer. Here, Dr. Sabat Sultana presenting the topic in favor of the debate, and my topic is TKI may be used without mutation status in non-small cell lung cancer. So here we comes for debate because of word maybe. We should emphasize the word maybe. It is not always or we should not say must. We may be use TKI for the management of non-small cell lung cancer patient. Before going to my points, I should mention 2 lines about TKI, which is TKI stands for. It is pharmacological drugs that inhibit tyrosine kinase and come as pills taken orally and effective in the treatment of various malignancies, including lung cancer, non-small cell lung cancer. And in case of non-small cell lung cancer, the identification of many oncogenic drivers, starting with EGFR mutation, and the availability of therapies specifically targeting this molecular alteration. And we all know non-small cell lung cancer is 80 to 85% of all lung cancer and present with advanced or metastatic disease. I should emphasize the percentage of the non-small cell lung cancer, which is 80 to 85%, is a huge number, and it is heterogeneous disease. So as this is a large number of percentage, we can use TKI without mutation status because when we treat a large number of patients, each and every patient we can do by protocol. There was a worldwide literature reporting EGFR mutation frequency in patients with non-small cell lung cancer. Adenocarcinoma group was reviewed, and the total 151 studies were includes 33,162 patients, and among them 9,749 patients found positive. So this is a large number, and we should emphasize in Asia Pacific subgroup region had highest EGFR mutation, which is about 47%. If you see the ranges, it is up to 76% in non-small cell lung cancer adenocarcinoma group. So here is the another point of note, that is the percentage of EGFR mutation is highest and frequency is higher in women and who never smoked. There were several trials which shows in favor of TKI. In case of BR21 trial, which is conducted in 2004, there was a randomized placebo-controlled trial of erlotinib in patients with advanced non-small cell lung cancer following the failure of first or second line chemotherapy. We should emphasize this word, that is the failure of first or second line chemotherapy. We may use TKI. And they showed statistically and clinically meaningful benefit for patients randomized to erlotinib, and that was the first randomized trial which confirmed that EGFR inhibitor prolongs the survival after first or second line chemotherapy. There is another trial which is called Taylor trial conducted in 2013, where erlotinib versus docetaxel as second line treatment of patients with advanced non-small cell lung cancer by wild-type EGFR tumor, and there was median progression-free survival almost same for both arms, 2.4 versus 2.9 months. There is another important trial which is called LUX-Lung-A trial, which is phase 3 trial of afatinib versus erlotinib for squamous cell carcinoma after at least one prior platinum-based chemotherapy, and the study trial was started on 2012, completed on 2017, and they showed significant improvement in progression-free survival and overall survival with afatinib group along with manageable safety profile and the convenience of oral administration. We should emphasize oral administration suggests the afatinib could be an additional option for the treatment of patients with squamous cell carcinoma of the lung. So my opponent must be agreed with me, that is TKI may be used without seeing the mutation status. According to Asian Pacific Society of Respirology, the extent of therapy predictive biomarker testing is dependent on the approval and reimbursement status of the recommended therapeutic agent in each country or institution. So there was a barrier. This perspective of developing countries, mostly doing the CT-guided FNAC 5-needle aspiration cytology for diagnosis, where the tissue sample is not sufficient to do the mutation testing. And we are very early to start core biopsy. There is a limited resources available for doing the liquid biopsy, the financial constraint of the poor people, and the high cost of doing mutation status in non-small cell lung cancer patient. So yesterday is history and tomorrow is the mystery and today is the gift of the God. So we should give the best available support to our patient today. And I hope my opponent will agree with me that we should not miss the chances or we should take the challenges of TKI which give the best result in some patient, those who can do the mutation testing or those who don't have the mutation. Thanks to Almighty, thanks to frontline health workers, thanks to my opponent, and thanks to Oncology Club. And last of all, thanks to all who hear me. Thank you.
And thanks to you also, Sarwat, for a wonderful presentation. I am almost convinced with your presentation. Let's see how the opponent talk. So now we are going to listen to another debater. So our another debater is Dr. Tania Sultana, who is a medical officer of the same department of NICRH. But I want to mention here that in our oncology community, we have a national level debater, Dr. ATM Sajjad Hussain, who is a registrar in NICRH, and he is doing all the background work for developing all these debaters. Thanks to Sajjad and also Mustafa Aziz, who is the coordinator of this lung session. He could not attend today, but both of them work really hard, and every time they are helping this debater. So thank to Sajjad and Sumon to help them. Now our next debater who will be talking against, Tania Sultan.
Assalamu alaikum. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Go to the slideshow and start the presentation.
Yes. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
So, Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Oncology Club, for giving me the opportunity to participate today's prestigious debate session. Today's topic of debate is TKI may be used without mutation status in non-small cell lung cancer. I, Dr. Tania Sultana, Medical Officer, Radiation Oncology Department, NICRH, going to talk against the motion. I think my learned opponent will be agreed with me after my speech. In our country, we have no published data regarding prevalence of EGFR mutation status. According to an article published in Lung India in 2015, prevalence and outcome of EGFR mutation in non-small cell lung cancer patient showed 34% patients were mutated, about 70% patients were wild type. So is it justified to use TKI blindly without seeing the mutation status? The question is to my opponent. NCCN recommends routine biomarker testing for advanced or metastatic non-small cell lung cancer. ASCO recommendation, EGFR mutation testing for patients with advanced non-small cell lung cancer, considering first-line EGFR TKI therapy. It is also recommended by other guidelines. According to NCCN, tumor that do not harbor sensitizing EGFR mutation should not be treated with EGFR TKI in any line of therapy. So how should we treat advanced non-small cell lung cancer? There are some interlinked factors like histologic subtyping, genotyping for predictive biomarkers, which are interlinked with therapeutic decision making. And only when the biomarker status is known to us, we should go for further treatment according to the biomarker status. Now I will show some studies. This is a open label phase 3 trial, IPAS trial, which was done in previously untreated patients, stage 3B or 4 non-small cell lung cancer, never smoker or ex-light smokers. In one arm, gefitinib was given and another arm, paclitaxel carboplatin was given. Primary endpoint was PFS. Gefitinib was superior to carboplatin paclitaxel in ITT population. But when the IPA subgroup analysis was done, EGFR mutation status was seen in 437 patients. Among them, 261 patients were EGFR mutation positive and 176 patients were EGFR mutation negative. PFS was significantly longer in gefitinib group who were EGFR mutation positive, and who were EGFR mutation negative. PFS was significantly longer in patients who received chemotherapy. So from this subgroup analysis, we can say there is no benefit of giving TKI in mutation negative patients. Now another trial, optimal trial and ARTEC trial. Both of the trial was conducted in advanced or metastatic EGFR mutation positive non-small cell lung cancer patients. In one arm, erlotinib was given and another arm, standard chemotherapy was given. Primary endpoint was PFS. And the result showed in optimal trial, the PFS was 13.1 months in erlotinib group and 4.6 months in chemotherapy group. And in ARTEC trial, PFS was 9.7 months for erlotinib group and 5.2 months in chemotherapy group. Another one, LUXLUNG 3 trial, which is also a phase 3 study, which was done in EGFR mutant non-small cell lung cancer patients. Afatinib was given in one arm and cisplatin pemetrexed given in another arm. The PFS showed 13.6 months in afatinib group and 6.9 months in chemotherapy group. And a LUXLUNG 6 trial, which was also done in advanced non-small cell lung cancer, stage 3B or 4, adenocarcinoma EGFR mutation positive patients, afatinib given in one arm and gemcitabine cisplatin given in another arm. This also shows 11-month PFS in afatinib group and 5.6 months in cisplatin gemcitabine group. So all the phase 3 trials showed excellent results when TKI was used in EGFR mutation positive patients. So I request my opponent not to argue against the established fact. Rather, I invite her to admit the fact. I will give emphasis on practice precision medicine. Yes, I agree with my opponent. She correctly said that there are so many obstacles in our country, like lack of logistic supports, financial constraint, high cost, etc. But this can be overcome if government and other private organizations come forward and take necessary action. After overcoming numerous difficulties, this Podda Bridge, a dream project of Bangladesh, is progressively moving toward becoming a reality. So think in this way, we can do anything we want to if we stick to it long enough. Thank you all for patience hearing.
Thank you very much. It was a wonderful presentation. Now we know, as I mentioned, that debate is for the sake of debate. Whatever topics we select, it doesn't mean that we always support it or we are against it, but still there is a message that we want to give. So Ullas, would you mind to make a comment that can, under any circumstances, I mean, is there any rationale of using TKI without mutation test?
Sir, if you ask my honest opinion, the topic was a very tough one for the first speaker. I mean, I don't think there is, under any circumstances, we should, because we should give TKIs without a biomarker proof. The only exception which the first speaker showed was the LUXLUNG 8, but then that's squamous cell carcinoma. You don't expect a biomarker to be there. And that's a maintenance setting. And that's not only because of the fact, the only thing is, if you are giving biomarkers to a EGFR wild population, you are doing disservice to them. So, on the face of it, you may feel like you're giving gefitinib to somebody, but then gefitinib is lesser than chemotherapy in a EGFR wild person. Who knows that person may have ALK? Who knows that person may have ROS? Who knows that person may have NTRK? So I think in 2020, Padma Bridge, I don't really know whether it's yet completed or not, but I think I would agree with the second speaker.
Thank you, Ullas. LuxLung 8, as you mentioned, yes, it is a great reference, but it is a dangerous reference because the significance is 1.5 months. It is only 45 days. So, you know, this p-value is sometimes a funny thing. This 1.5 month addition with this afatinib was the significance of the study. So yes, it was statistically significant, but we need to understand this benefit was only 1.5 months. So we should look into the total data when we are taking it. So this intention of this debate was to bring up the data, I mean the evidences where we can find any good solid reference to rationalize the use of TKI in our perspective, where we cannot do a core biopsy. Sometimes mutation test is not possible, but you know, we have a great drug like gefitinib, which is quite cheap. Can we give it with the suggestion, I mean the debate of 40% positivity in the Asian? But probably I agree with Ullas that science don't allow. We can do it, nobody's going to block us, but the answer is till now, science don't support the use of any TKI without any mutation test. My last question to Ullas, in the NCCN, they are telling that metastatic and advanced lung cancer, non-small cell lung cancer need to do the mutation test. We know that the recommendation is for metastatic. Why this advanced group is coming here, making us confused, Ullas?
So the advanced group basically means, let's say you have a T4, N3 disease in which you will not be able to give curative, definitive radiotherapy or surgery. And the initial trials had taken at that time. So that's the only thing, sir. Otherwise, so any stage 3 also in which you will not be able to give a definitive curative radiotherapy or surgery, those kinds of people can be included. But again, as far as possible, try to downstage those patients and use a curative treatment in stage 3 also.
So I think that was more a trial setup, but the clean cut recommendation is still on the metastatic setup.
It's only in the metastatic stage 4.
Yes. So thanks, Ullas. I think today we are almost at the end of our session. As we all know that we have a new academic partner. AstraZeneca is our partner. And very quick 1 minute's vote of thanks from AstraZeneca. Then we want to finish up.
Thank you, sir. Honorable President, Oncology Club, Professor Dr. M.A. Haiser, Honorable Moderator, Dr. A.F.M. Kamaluddin, sir, Scientific Secretary, Oncology Club, Bangladesh. Our honorable faculties, Dr. Sadia Sharmin, Associate Professor, Department of Oncology, BSMU, Dhaka. Our Dr. Ullas Batra, Senior Consultant, Medical Oncology, and Chief of Thoracic Medical Service, Rajiv Gandhi Cancer Institution and Research Center, Delhi. Dr. John Conevier, Consultant Clinical Oncologist, BARS NHS Trust, UK, and our debaters, Dr. Tania Sultana, Medical Officer, Radiation Oncology, NICRH, and Dr. Sarat Sultana, Registered Radiation Oncology, NICRH. Assalamu alaikum and good evening. I am Dr. Haidar Hassan Nadim, Medical Advisor, MGS Healthcare Limited, on behalf of our organization and our principal AstraZeneca, extending a hard thanks to our honorable faculties for your important and valued speech. I also want to give thanks to our Oncology Club, Bangladesh, for providing us the opportunity to be a scientific partner of such kind of program. Hope that in the future, this collaboration will be continued. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, AstraZeneca and MGH, for your support, and we hope this support will continue. For some technical issues, the attractive quiz session is missing today, but we are going to declare that we know every session, whenever somebody is asking a question, we give him or her a bonus point, 5. And once somebody achieve 100, we give them an award. So today we are going to declare 2 winners of 100 bonus. Samir, show the names that we want to congratulate them, that both of them has scored 100, and they are Saiful Islam and Tasneem Hussain. Congratulations to both of them. Our office
Sir,
with
I think, sir, I want to add something. I think
Yes.
the name should be Saiful Alam, Dr.
Saiful
Saiful
Alam.
Alam.
Okay, thank you. Riyad, Saiful Alam and Tasneem Hussain. So for your wonderful performance, keep on asking question. Asking question make you credible for winning a prize. So there are prizes everywhere. And today I see many new faces joined us. Thanks for joining. And we wish and hope that you will be joining us in future because your participation enrich our program. And we are going to have a 2-day preceptorship on GI oncology, colorectal cancer from on 18 and 19 December. And we have wonderful faculties, one from Italy and one Centil is there and 4 other from Rajiv Gandhi. So it will be a huge session for 2 days. Many of you have registered, but who have not registered, requesting you to get registered. Enjoy the 2-day session. We will try to cover from diagnosis to radiology to pathology, even surgery and radiotherapy, least but not the last, of course, chemotherapy. So this will be a 2-day session. You are all requested to register and take the opportunity to enrich yourself. So now I think we are almost at the end, and now I request our president, Professor M.A. Heiser, to formally conclude the session. Before that, I want to thank Ullas. For unfortunately, today we missed John. He is cycling, he could not join, but hopefully next week it will be a radiation therapy session. We will try to get him. So thanks to all. Before I take off, and I ask Professor Heiser to conclude the session. Sir.
Thank you, Kamal. You had a very nice session. First of all, I must congratulate Dr. Sadia Sharmin. She has spoken very nicely. Only thing I shall request her, she has repeatedly said, I have already told. Try to minimize this thing. If you come something new, you repeat it, or just miss it, just keep it. Don't say all the time that I have already told, I have already told. This is not good. Hopefully you will be corrected here. Now two sultanas, Sarwat and Tanya, have very nice fighted each other. Fight was good, palatable. So this is this type of fight we need. The oncology club, you can play with these things. This is just a play. Don't think that is where just fighting with fighting out. Don't think anything personally. It is just a play. Just a play. Somebody loses, somebody wins. This is what we want to do. The oncology club. In the future, as soon as I'll be able to bring some more plays, we will leave it. You will enjoy it. Okay, we have all the time. We have taken lots of time. Thank you, Ullas. You have joined us again. Really grateful to, and also AstraZeneca for allowing us to get help from them. Okay, so I want to conclude. Allah Hafiz, everybody.
So thank you, sir. So we conclude the session. Goodbye, everybody. See you tomorrow, same time, and on the another session of lung cancer. Goodbye.
So I'm ending the session.
Yes.